3, 2, 1. And we're live.
Boom! Live! Yo!
Actually, we were live 2 seconds ago. I was just being that way.
You know what? The countdowns is, though, it's a way to ease in, focus, put on the game face. Because we totally do a game face for this show, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And that way we're ready to go. And here we are. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Zocalo, your one-stop shop for everything related to Babylon 5 and then some. But guess what? We are back to Babylon 5 this week, and we have got a hell of a show geared up. We're going to rank our top 5 Susan Ivanova quotes, you guys. This is going to be intense.
Not an easy task at all.
No. God, that hurt.
Right?
Oh, I mean, coming up with the quotes was easy. There's several. Mm-hmm. Narrowing it down to 5, only 5, and then ranking them.
And also, to let all of our listeners know, Shar, we have a caveat for this particular ranking show because...
Yes, we do.
There are... Susan Ivanova has some pretty legendarily famous quotes. Legendarily, that's a word. It is now.
It is now.
Famous quotes. So how about you let all our listeners know what our caveat is and which they are?
Sure. So last week when we came up with this topic idea, we realized that the Babylon 5 mantra, definitely up there as one of the most memorable, most popular, most powerful quotes in all of the whole freaking show, which is saying a lot. And we thought we can't let that take a spot in the top 5 because it's just given that that's brilliant. So this ranking is to the exclusion of that, as well as the "Who am I am Susan Ivanova" speech in season 4.
Yeah, it's hard to make, if you're only doing the top 5 quotes for Susan Ivanova or for any of the characters, it's really hard to take their most signature, if you took an aggregate of it, the most popular or most popular top 2 quotes for that character, and then to not have a list that's just kind of like the also rans, right?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, if we just immediately did those 2 at the very top, then there's not a whole lot left. So those are obviously number ones. Mm-hmm. And so our top 5 is not going to include that. It's everything else. And I can't wait to see your list, and I can't wait to hear what our listeners, our viewers are going to say and chime in with their favorite quotes. We have quite a few people here already, by the way. So I want to say hi to Earl and Data and Terry Lynn and Patrick. Hello, all of you.
Hello. BC, my God, what did we do? What happened? Where is he?
I don't know, man.
For shame.
I don't know. He probably has some things to do. It's fine. He'll show up when he shows up. If not, he's in the Discord server, and I think everybody who is tuning in right now is already in the Discord server. However, if you're watching this and you have not gotten onto our Discord server and you want to, I'm going to get you a link shortly.
So as Char's doing that, I'm just going to read you a little bit of the blurb that will set up the show for us. So if there's one truism, one constant, one unifying force in the Babylon 5 universe, it can be summed up in 4 words. Ivanova is always right. Now, Char, you and I have talked about this before, and we've always believed that it's widely understood that in Babylon 5, J. Michael Straczynski wrote his characters in a way that gave us a glimpse into various parts of his own psyche, kind of like his own soul. And
definitely,
I think in this case, with the character of Susan Ivanova, I think that's the part of him that loves challenge, that loves kind of being stubborn, butts heads with people. But if you have Susan Ivanova in your corner, that's about as good as it gets. There's no one more loyal, no one that will fight harder for you than Susan Ivanova.
Yep. Yes, the word I was going to go for was loyalty. If she is on your side, you have a friend for life.
So with JMS's words and Claudia's performance, because with Babylon 5, some people say, if you redo this, who are you going to recast as so-and-so? Nobody is recast.
Don't do it.
At all,
ever do it.
Ever. And especially not Claudia as Ivanova. Because...
Right. I mean, these people were irreplaceable. Lightning in a bottle.
Right. If it's not for JMS's words, it's definitely for her performance as Susan Ivanova. And that's what makes not just the dialogue special, but the delivery special as well.
100%. Yeah. he wrote the words, she embodied them.
Right.
So
Just
I feel like it's
you
a
know,
50-50 relationship between writer and actor to make that happen correctly. And B5 was magic in that respect.
we did that earlier on with Andreas Katsoulis as Jakar. You know how I feel about that. You
Oh,
know how I feel
yeah.
about that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So JMS had an incredible relationship, the way that he crafted his dialogue, his characters, his character development, and how he was able to find the right people to channel all of those performances that gave us the characterizations and the memories that we have. And for Susan Ivanova, I think the hardest thing for me to find was trying to strike a balance of choosing not just quotes that defined her, but quotes that also gave a lot of her personality kind of like the forefront, right? Because
Okay, right. Yeah,
you know,
because she has some really good wit and a sense of sarcasm that I envy and admire.
right? So there's like everyone can like deliver a really good, very inspirational speech, but in just words, in a mere line or phrase, she can cut you off at the knees more than probably anybody else in that show.
It's true. She knows how to use words like a machete.
Yeah. And
It's good shit.
And so does J. Michael Straczynski. So we have a lot to discuss. We have a list. We haven't seen each other's lists, so we're
Nope.
going to have a lot of great discussion. We encourage everybody that's watching right now, and you should be, to also chime in with your favorite quotes as well. But before we do that, we are going to do our celebratory toast to everyone who's
Always.
watching and whoever
Yes.
is going to be watching.
That's right. So to you and to us and to the universe, Valtu!
Valtu!
By the way, Norm, BC is here. He has always been here.
He's always been here. Is he the hand? He is the hand. What does that mean?
The hand. What kind of a phrase is that?
And that is not one of my quotes, by the way.
Nah, there's better. How about you kick us off with your number 5?
Okay, so we're going to do our top 5, right? And then we're going to do honorable mentions if we can actually get to them.
100%.
Okay, so my top 5, number 5 here, and it's kind of it's unfair in a way because it has to do. It's a little bit more of a performance part, so it's not just her, but I need somebody else. I need this entire quote because it just shows off her personality, right?
Go for it.
Okay, so this comes from one of my favorite episodes. It's called Believers.
Oh, okay. This is not where I thought you were going.
Oh,
Please
okay.
continue.
So there's and I like starting off with this one because it shows like how serious she takes her position and how serious she makes you take her position, as in not her position as a political stance, but a position as an authority on Babylon 5. So Major Leanna Kemmer, who has the presidential seal of approval and authority over Earth Force and over obviously the president's itinerary, she says to Ivanova, "I demand you open a channel to Earth at once." And Ivanova responds, "I am a lieutenant commander in Earth Force, Major. I do not take demands. If you have a request, I'll consider it." And then Kemmer says, "Very well then, I request you open a channel to Earth Dome." And then Ivanova says, "Request denied. Have a nice day."
That does
me
indeed.
is Ivanova, right?
That definitely reflects her personality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1, don't, step on my toes. 2, I'm going to axe you with my words. Have a nice
Right.
day.
Exactly. She was being pleasant about it. She said that, "Hey, look, I am a lieutenant commander in the same service branch that you are in, and this is my station. So you will
Yeah.
accord me that respect."
That's right.
And then
You
go
will
F
respect
off.
it, and then yes. Oh, that's a very good one. I did not think about that one, but you are very on the nose there about just how much that embodies her personality. It's very expressive about who she is and what matters to her.
That's what I
Yeah,
like
that's a
about
good
her.
one. Real good one.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like my number 5 is very much in line with your number 5. So it is trust Ivanova, trust yourself. Anybody else? Shoot him.
Right?
Yeah. That's from the
Right.
episode No Surrender, No Retreat. And that's all you really need to know besides the Babylon 5 mantra.
There are like all these little tangential quotes that kind of reinforce the Babylon 5 mantra. But in the greater scope of like her personality, that's all you really need to know. You know why? Because it goes all the way back to what we're talking about. Trust Ivanova, right? Always.
She
trust
knows what she's
Ivanova.
doing.
Right. And if you're with her and she has your back, you're good.
Yeah.
Right? There's
Yeah,
nothing
because if
else you
she
need to worry
believes in
about.
you, you know you're all right. You're doing the right thing. And if
So
you're
we
not, she will tell you where to go.
So we had, we're as we throw in our quotes, we can read down the chat. And Terry Lynn, I'm sure Terry Lynn, you have like more quotes than this, and please be sure to share them with us. But
Please.
her quote is, all I can say is enthusiasm, sincerity, genuine compassion, and humor can carry you through any lack of prior experience without high numerical value.
Yes, where she's talking to Veer about third base.
Right. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's so funny.
that's a great quote. I considered that one, Terry Lynn.
And it does work in any situation. It's just a matter of context, right?
Right? But I think the overall message we can say is that enthusiasm and sincerity, it'll get you far.
Now, when you started compiling your list, like since we took basically the two big guns off the table, and I will actually disagree with you on one thing. I don't think, for me, it wasn't as obvious. Those two weren't as obvious because I already have my number one, and my number one wasn't of those two, of hers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But for the most part, though, in general speaking, though, the Ivanova is God, and the Ivanova, I am the right hand of God. A lot of God going on in those two statements, right?
She is Jewish.
Yes, this is true. This is true. And Russian. And what I love about that is there are a lot of quotes that I wanted to add in there, but without the context of kind of like her Russian upbringing, it was a little bit harder to kind of choose.
You know what? Same thing happened to me. There is one quote in my honorable mention that does kind of deal with Russian stuff.
Yeah. I mean, because I've been doing like a lot of Russian history study. And if you really kind of like understand the drift of what happened with, say, the end of the Tsars, the end of Nicholas II, the Russian Revolution, and Vladimir Lenin's rise to power, all of this stuff, what happened to the Russians, like within literally a 15-year period, is like literally the worst thing that could happen to any country ever, except for what's happening right now to the United States. So, did I say that? I did. So, no, but it's true because you had the Russian Revolution in this 15-year period. You had, this was in October 1917. You had like the war against Japan, which they lost. You had a great famine. You had what was called bloody. I mean, just wave upon wave upon wave of disparity and hopelessness. And that's kind of like what Joe was trying to add into Ivanova's character, where pessimism is a way of life. Pessimism is as easy for them as breathing.
It pretty much.
Right?
He definitely instilled that. That very much comes from his upbringing and his family history, if you ask me. If you've read Becoming Superman, you know a little bit about Joe's lineage. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of suffering there, but there's also a lot of fallout from that as well.
So what do you think? Should we hit up quote
Let's go number
2?
4.
Number 4.
Let's do it.
Duh.
Yeah, you're up first, sir.
Okay, so I have to admit that my favorite moments that Ivanova had were both quote and kind of reaction to the people that she's talking to.
Yeah, there's several instances where that's the case, yes?
Yes. And again, this is another one that, well, it's not a lot of actually, it's no. My number 4 doesn't have anything to do with that. She's responding to something. So it's not quite her own quote, but she's responding to something. And this comes from, again, another season 1 episode called Eyes.
Okay.
With the great Jeffrey Combs as Harriman Gray.
Jeffrey Combs is everywhere.
So Jeffrey Combs plays telepath Harriman Gray. He's a telepath, and he's part of Psychor, and he's not really on Ari Ben Zion's side, so to speak. But Ivanova still hates all telepaths, especially, well, all Psychor telepaths, I should say.
Yes, she hates the Psychor more than anything.
And she says to him, Mr. Gray, I'm grateful the Psychor has given you a purpose in life. But when that purpose includes scanning my mind to prove my loyalty, it's not only an invasion of my privacy, but my honor. As for fear, if you enter my mind for any reason, I will twist your head off and use it for a chamber pot.
Chamber pot. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yes, let's not forget just how much that sets off alarm bells in Ivanova's head, the possibility of being scanned just because of what happened with her mother.
Right.
And the fact that she herself is a latent telepath, and that cannot be found out because the moment that happens, boom, you're off to the core or you're taking drugs, and then what? She loses everything.
What I loved about this particular quote, though, is that, again, it kind of like goes into her character where she's insulted by the sheer fact that somebody from the Psi Corps would have to telepathically probe her to prove these two words, honor and loyalty to Earth Force.
Yes.
And that's what sets her off.
Now, if she were in Star Trek, she'd be a Klingon based on those keywords.
Oh, don't start me on Klingon.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's just say that Ivanova is way better.
She is actually more Cardassian in that way than she'll ever be Klingon, I think.
Oh, but the Cardassians can be a little facetious. You don't fully understand what they're thinking. I feel Ivanova's a little more straightforward than that. I mean, she will tell you in graphic detail what she's thinking.
Oh, yes, sir. 3 bags full showed her that she kind of evolved from that.
That's also true. And for the record, that is not on my list.
We get no performance art from you for that one today?
You're not getting that performance. No.
All right.
It is off the list on purpose.
And what purpose is that? Did you just not like that quote?
I just don't want to perform it. No, I'm not doing it.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to top Claudia Christian in that respect. No, that is all her. That is her performance. We're just going to let that be. Now, however, there is a line from that episode that makes my honorable mentions, but it's not exactly that.
Okay.
Okay, so that said, my number 4. It is, I kind of pulled this one out of a greater context because really I could have done the whole freaking thing and you all would understand why it's ranked in my top 5. But I think I took the massive gem out of it, which is the comedic aspect. And so the line is, at least I should have boffed him just once.
Aww.
From Rising Star. And she's talking about Marcus, talking about what happened right in the aftermath of him giving his life for hers.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have to follow that up with all love is unrequited. Another very memorable phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great scene with her. I mean, you're pretty much like, let's caveat this entire scene with that quote. You know, that's the end of that entire scene, because if Joe like just kept going with such heavy drama and heavy gravitas, I don't think we would have gotten through that scene. We wouldn't have gotten through the episode, right?
Oof, no.
Right. So when she says that and Stephen goes, "Boff," that's what he would have said.
Yeah.
Right? That's.
I mean, it's
just
adorable
like,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
and
lets us off
honestly,
the
the
hook a
whole
little bit.
scene. I mean, that is some of Claudia Christian's very best work on the whole series. She should have won so many awards for her work in that.
I mean, if you're going to go out on a scene, that may be the scene to go out on, you know, for a character.
Right? Now, that really is her last really big scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one that defines and encapsulates that entire relationship with her and Marcus, right? You know, they were always dancing around this issue, and it's funny that I should not say funny. It's ironic that the greatest display of love that Marcus gave to her was sacrifice, right? More than physical love, you know, more than boffing, right? More than holding hands, or more than trying to steal away those very special secret moments where they would like. Of course, Ivanova would hate like when he would like throw glances at her or smile. She would hate it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Or send her bacon and eggs. You know, she would hate stuff like that.
Yes.
Right. But nothing. I mean, she was proven without a doubt what Marcus felt for her, and I loved at the end where she's like, you know, I knew that he would never hurt me.
Oh, I know. Isn't that kind of like the biggest thing for her? because she has been so hurt and has lost so many people in her life that's left the biggest scars on her. And she knew he would do anything for her. And it scared the living crap out of her.
Anything.
Because she's never had that.
Including giving up his own life, which she hates because she references that later on. Like,
right?
Know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, she did not ask for that.
No.
He just gave it and did not, I mean, there was no consent involved. And if you read the short story that kind of concludes their relationship, it's kind of a reversal of that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, a lot of ethical questions there, which we have reviewed in a previous episode, by the way.
You should check that out. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a very good one. So before we get into round 3, we've got some comments.
Yeah.
So let's get into some more Ivanova quotes. We have Patrick, who puts in a very good one. If you'll excuse me, I'm in the middle of 15 things, all of them annoying. Very good one. One of the first ones, too.
Yep.
See what I did there?
Yep. Zog left, Zog right, Zog this, Zog yes,
Zog no. Yes.
Yeah. See, that's kind of like where I went with Major Kemmer. It's the same type of attitude, right?
Yes.
Like Talia comes in, she's supposed to report in and say, I'm Psychor, I'm supposed to report in legally and stuff like that. And Ivanova's just like, I don't care.
Right?
Get off
fine.
my CNC, right?
Great, go.
Like, I don't like you. I don't like your badge. I don't like anything about you.
Get out of my face. I'm busy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
And that sets the tone. That's just like her. It's like, you annoy me. I got no time for you.
She don't got time for that. She is busy.
I ain't got time
That's
for
right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I still love that lady. Sweet Brown.
Yeah. I ain't got time for that.
God. That's right. I got bronchitis. It's good stuff. That's a very old meme, guys, if you have no idea what we're talking about. So Earl Green says, let's not forget the elevator full of ambassadors whom she directs toward the fusion reactor with their grievances. He forgets the exact quote. I think it may have been points of departure. Yes, where she basically tells them off and says, look, it's again, like, I do not have time for your BS. Figure it out, get out of my face, and shut up.
Yeah, or I will assign all of your table arrangements to near the fusion reactor.
That's right. That's what it was. And so then she shuts them up. She leaves, and then they're all over again.
Right. That's the thing is like that's the politics of Babylon 5 that she would just have hated. She's so glad that like either Sinclair or Sheridan was there because that wasn't for her.
And at this juncture, she has neither, and so she is handling it on her own, and it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
I do not. I feel for her in every instance of that, just because that would not be my thing either. Learning the fine art of diplomacy, screw it. No way.
I love the one that Terry Lynn brought up because it's so funny, and I love Franklin's reaction to it. So she says, "I love the one with Doc and Diet food plan. Food plan. All my life I've fought against imperialism. Now I am the expanding Russian frontier." And then Franklin says, "But with very nice borders."
Yes. A hell of a way to think about a diet/food plan.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about the whole food plan thing is the variety of foods that they have in front of them. So Ivanova gets the fettuccine Alfredo that's just loaded with butter and milk and all the good shit.
Right.
And then Garibaldi, he has just like, kind of like, I don't know, he has probably the more balanced of the meals of the three. And Sheridan gets a freaking salad. He hates it. It's rabbit food. Yeah. And then meanwhile, we better switch back after they try to get away with getting what they want. And Ivanova wants the salad. Huh? I mean, salad's okay, but it smacks of deprivation to me. I'd rather get some of that fettuccine on the side.
Hey, you know what? We all know that Franklin will he'll buckle to some pretty good banya calda. So, just saying.
Right. So, Franklin, just quiet. Quiet with your food plan.
But we all do appreciate the ever expanding Russian frontier.
Always. Beautiful borders.
Okay, so let's see. You know what? There's another one here, and I love this one from Patrick. Our gunner, because it's so deadpan Ivanova, it's so perfect, Claudia.
This is a good one.
Right. Our gun arrays are now fixed on your ship. They will fire the instant you come into range. You will find their power quite impressive for a few seconds. It's so
Yes.
good, right?
Right? I feel like this is one of those lines that any other character who might have said it, different delivery, not as much of an impact. This is
Right.
an Ivanova line.
Right. And it's like she delivers that with such certainty. It's not a threat. It's a promise.
And that's the
Right?
big difference, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
what
that's
she
what makes it
says
so good.
is an inevitability. It's not hyperbole, right? It
No.
will happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going down. You really want this? We'll show you.
And it leads
I'm
me
telling
to,
you.
It leads me to my number 3. It's the shortest of mine, but it's such like there's so many quotes that are somewhat like this quote, but this one just makes me laugh to no end.
Okay. Do your
So-
number 3.
So there's an episode where there's a reporter named Marianne Kramer, you know, the
Oh,
blonde with
boy.
it, right?
Uh-huh.
And she's trying to get an interview with Commander Sinclair. And Ivanova steps in front of her and says, "Don't. You're too young to experience that much pain."
Which is hilarious given that Ivanova is not exactly old.
It's just the
But-
way that she says that. Like it's
Like, oh, honey, you
Right.
can't handle this.
yeah, you got no time for this. Right? You got no time
I
for
considered this one. It's a very Ivanova line. It's very good.
this. Right?
Yeah. Now, random question. Are all of your quotes from season 1 by chance?
No.
Oh, okay. Because so far they are.
Yeah, and I think it's just because, you know, a lot of the writers were kind of like growing and understanding with the characters. And I felt that Ivanova was very much kind of like in a learning curve. And there was a lot more that I think that she was given to do on the CNC. And later on, you know, there are the big quotes, right? The big developed quotes. And since we took those off the table, it's a little bit harder to go. But that doesn't mean that my top 2 aren't not necessarily from season 1
All right.
or my
Fair
honorable
enough.
mentions. So
All right. So my third one comes from season 3, and it is, Marcus, we're stealing a station to fight in a war that was over 1,000 years ago. We're all mad.
yeah, that's World Without End, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I believe the very start of part 2, just basically acknowledging the absurdity of that whole situation. I love it.
I
Like,
make
okay,
my
I
own
realize
luck.
this is crazy. We're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
good
what
shit.
a-
And you
what a-
also have to say with World Without End, my other contender from this episode was, of course, I'll be in the car.
Yeah. I make my own luck.
I don't believe in luck.
I don't believe in luck. I make my own luck.
Bump.
What is it?
On
Yeah.
the other hand,
Yeah.
that's a
good
horrible
stuff.
accent. Sorry, British people.
You know, his accent, Jason's accent, is so. I don't know. It's not a London accent, and it's not a Cockney accent. It's kind of like an industrial accent, like Birmingham, or you know, it's so distinct though.
Do you know where he's from by chance?
I
don't.
Leeds.
Is he? Okay,
I think.
could be. I don't know.
So-
We'll have to look that up later. That I didn't fully consider that. Yeah, that might be an indication of where he is originally from.
Yeah, but he has
Just
a very
because the English
strong-
accent is so nuanced.
Yeah. Very strong. Very strong.
Yes. I want to get into some comments because we are just rocking right now.
Right.
We got to scroll up and go back to Earl here. And he's talking about the last scene of Claudius from Rising Star. He has a controversial opinion here. He says, I'm glad we got Lockley in season 5 rather than the original intent, which was Byron tripping Ivanova's Marcus triggers with the long-haired Britishness. And he says, I think the original plan to do that would have sullied the whole Ivanova-Marcus relationship. I really don't... I have very mixed feelings about what if Ivanova had had the relationship with Byron? Because as a latent telepath, she would be gravitated toward a telepath matter somehow. Like, I feel like he could rein her in, but I don't know if I would have liked that relationship. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't have liked it because it would have stolen all of Lita's development, and you know what happened with Pat. It
Yes.
would have stolen a lot of Pat's material, and I really do
True.
think that was like obviously season 5 is like where she wasn't so much just a participant, but somebody who actually like drove a lot of the storyline and a lot of the initiative for the telepaths. So I don't think that. I mean, Of course, I would have loved to have seen, Claudia in season 5. I love Tracy in season 5. It's like one of those things, like, I like director's cuts of things, but I like how it was handled,
Sure, sure. Yeah, honestly, yeah, I'm with you. If Claudia had stayed aboard, I really don't know what Pat Tallman would have done as Lita. I'm sure Joe had a plan, but the way that it handled on air, as we did see it, gave Lita such a rich reason to basically not lose control, but to just not give a crap anymore. As she would say, she's pissed.
Yeah, she's
After
pissed.
all the things that she does, by the end of season 5, which I'm watching with my husband right now, he's watching B5 for the first time. We're at this point where she just does not give a what anymore and is doing whatever she wants. And it's like, finally, this is so good. And if we wouldn't have had that with Lita, man, I would have been sad.
Yeah, the hindsight on this is really, really hard to manage because obviously we want to see Ivanova round out, her career in season 5, become the commander of Babylon 5, have Sheridan move forward. And it would have been really interesting to have seen her and Sheridan butt heads, her being basically the military governor of Babylon 5 now, but knowing everything that she knows about Sheridan, having spent the last 3 years being basically his right arm. So,
True.
Right?
And now that could have been really complicated and fun to watch.
Yep, and
sure.
I also think that's probably why they wanted to throw the whole marriage aspect in there with Lockley, because that gives her instant credibility of understanding the BS that he can throw at her.
Well, it implies they've had some intimacy. She knows him, he knows her, because they were just that close. You know how I feel about the whole marriage angle. I won't get into it.
Right.
That's not what we're here talking about today.
Yeah.
But I kind of get why he got there, just because for what time he had to develop Lockley. And unfortunately, I feel like she should have been in more episodes just because we needed to get to know this character in one season. But with all the other things going on, I kind of get that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to work fast. Let's put it that way. And he lost a lot of his plans for season 5. Do you remember that? Yeah. He was at a convention in the UK, and the housekeeper took a lot of the material he had and had to rewrite it. Yikes!
Can you believe that? That's crazy, right?
Just a stupid, shitty thing that happened. I'm sure the housekeeper didn't mean it, didn't realize, but at the same time, wow.
I couldn't even imagine the look on his face. Remember when he was saying he was pitching Babylon 5 to the network execs at Paramount, and he cracked his tooth, cracked his molar, because he was like so stressed out.
Yes, I do remember that. So he drank a bunch of ice water and then kind of had a numb tongue thing happen while he I Dr. Thinky. I have a Babylon 5.
That's such a great story. When he tells it.
I imagine his reaction to finding his notes gone was sort of like Garibaldi in the little car in Mars after he has his confrontation with Bester. Well, it's not a confrontation. It's when Bester tells him what happened, what Bester did to him, and then he just rage like that.
And you see the camera pull back like from there to like the planet to like the galaxy. You're like, no.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think? We're headed towards top 2. Top 2 or tough?
Should we keep catching up on comments? Because we have a lot here.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
Earl has one of my favorites. I didn't put it on here, but it's one of my favorites because it's fucking hilarious.
Do it.
Let's see. So, I do not like Santiago. I've always thought that a leader should have a strong chin. He has no chin, and his vice president has several. This, to me, is not a good combination. I've always loved that quote. Always loved that quote.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I like the one just above that from Terry Lynn, where Franklin says, you can start by removing your clothes, and Ivanova says, not without dinner and flowers.
They had such a great relationship, those two.
Those two, they don't get to interact a lot. Mm-hmm. It's not like we see them all the time, but when we do, there's obviously a bond there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it's so there's an interesting thing that happens with cast and crew when a lot of the cast are kind of like replaced and supplanted with new cast, but like I've always liked Garibaldi's and Ivanova's relationships or their scenes together, because Garibaldi has literally been the only character that has stayed relatively the same since the gathering. Now, yes, we had Jakar, we had Londo, we had Delenn, but they all look different, right? They are all kind
they
of
changed a bit.
They've changed a bit. But Garibaldi is all relatively look the same, albeit less hair, maybe in season
less
4
hair,
and 5.
yes.
Right? But he's always kind of like looked the same. He's had the same personality, kind of like the same motive. So it's nice to like. I like it when she and Garibaldi get together because you're kind of looking at like this is when the two freshmen stayed together, grew together, and then had to. I wish there was a better goodbye scene with those two.
It's true, and I feel like what ruined it was the fact that Ivanova probably did not find out until much later that Garibaldi was under mind control when he betrayed Sheridan.
Right?
Yeah, because remember she says, hey, if he gets anywhere close to Babylon 5, I want him shot on sight.
Yeah. And he never had a chance to explain himself. Not to her.
No, it's a missing scene. And so I really do wish we would have had some closure between those two because prior to that moment, those two are like brother and sister.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Which leads me to my next quote.
Oh, okay. Do it.
So this is that. It's a short quote, but it's a quote that shows kind of like just where the relationship is at this time. Mr. Garibaldi, you're sitting at my station using my equipment. Is there a reason for this, or should I just go ahead and snap your hands off at the wrists? Right? It's a very older brother or older sister, younger brother, younger sister relationship where they know how good they are at their jobs. Garibaldi does not disrespect her in her position. Neither does her in his position.
Right.
But I know that in this episode that he's looking for the gremlin. He's looking for the person who's actually being able to circumvent Gold Channel, priority ultraviolet, which is like that's his realm. That's his domain.
Right.
And there's only one person, maybe two, aside from the commander, who wouldn't do that without checking with Garibaldi that would have done that, and that was her.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. What's great is she says these things, and if she were talking to anybody else, she really actually would chop off at the wrist. But with Garibaldi, he knows that she doesn't mean it, but at the same time, he's going to get the heck out of that station.
Sure. But also... when she sees him there, she knows that he knows something, or else he wouldn't be there.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So there's a lot of you have to read between the lines.
Exactly.
Subtext.
There's a one of my favorite scenes between Jakar and Garibaldi was Jakar's like, Mr. Garibaldi, he's like, you never ask a question where you don't know where it leads.
That's Garibaldi, right? He's the guy who maps out every scenario before he even approaches it. Mm-hmm. So he knows what to say, how to say it, and how to react.
Exactly. So I love this scene. It's just because it very economically shows their relationship, their dynamic, but at the same time, though, like what you said, when Sheridan was betrayed by Garibaldi, Ivanova, being loyal to Sheridan, would shoot him on sight, would shoot Garibaldi on sight. Who betrayed Sheridan, right?
Yeah. Again, I think one of the biggest things that matters to her is the loyalty. And if you betray, you are out of the circle. You are kicked out of it. And then from there, no mercy, if I may use a quote from another character.
Delenn. So
not the band, the quote.
So let's hit up your number 2. What do you have for number 2?
Okay, this is a longer one. Mm-hmm. Babylon 5 was the last of the Babylon stations. There would never be another. It changed the future, and it changed us. It taught us that we have to create the future, or others will do it for us. It showed us that we have to care for one another, because if we don't, who will? And that true strength sometimes comes from the unlikely, or most unlikely of places. Mostly, though, I think it gave us hope that there can always be new beginnings, even for people like us. Mm-hmm. And of course, that comes from Sleeping in Light. It's one of the last lines spoken in the whole series. And I feel like this sums up Babylon 5. And I love that Ivanova gets to say it.
Yeah. It's definitely it's her last line per se, right?
A little bit. There's a follow-up with, as for Delenn, she got up and watched the sun come up.
Right, but it was her last big soliloquy. And you're right. Like there's the last sentence here with the whole. I actually quoted this too. I have this.
Did you?
in my
Nice.
notes. Yeah. There can always be new beginnings, even for people like us. You know, the Babylon 5 always represented where people can come and reinvent themselves, where broken people can come and heal, where people can come and find new fortune, where people can come and leave their past behind and start new lives. That was always Babylon 5's goal as a show. You know, it's in many ways it kind of like reflected, you know. And I don't want to say this disparagingly to Star Trek because I'm a Star Trek fan. You're a Star Trek fan.
Oh yeah.
But at that time though, Star Trek really did rule the airwaves, right? You know, you had
100%. Anything that wasn't Star Trek that was sci-fi was considered lesser than. Let's be honest.
Exactly. And that's not necessarily because Star Trek was always that good. It's just that either what came after or during wasn't as good, or because it was just Star Trek, you know, so it was just a brand that perpetuated its own kind of its own hype, regardless of the quality of that hype.
It did. I would say by the time we were in the 90s when Babylon 5 aired, Star Trek had the name recognition in pop culture, widespread, household name, also had the budget and the promotion, neither of which Babylon 5 had that much of.
But when it comes to, say, there's always new beginnings, even for people like us, I've always taken that, like, as a Star Trek fan, like, sure, there is another alternative to Star Trek. There is just as good as, if not better than, quality science fiction out there. It's a hard thing for people to reconcile, leaving their core loyalty, right? For up until that time, I was a diehard Star Trek fan. You know, Star Trek, Star Wars, things of that nature. Doctor Who. Those are the pillars. And then all of a sudden this show comes along and, like, is it possible for the show to be that good? Is it possible for it to be that good because it's not part of these grand pillars of fandom? Yes.
Right. I feel like as a sci-fi fan, there's certain factions of people, not everybody, but some people feel like if they are watching something besides Star Trek and they consider themselves Star Trek fans, they are somehow disloyal. But then you have other folks who just love all of sci-fi. They're reading Bradbury. They are watching Star Trek. They're watching Babylon 5. They're watching Tech War. Whatever it is, they consume all of it. Tech War. I said Tech War with William Shatner.
Oh yeah.
Which I could not stand. But anyway. But the thing is like, I think there are certain people who just feel like, okay, no, I'm loyal to this one thing. It's the one thing I like. It's the one thing I champion. And anything else is... It doesn't feel right. Cheating. And no, you can be a fan of many things, but I think maybe back in that day, that was more important just because there wasn't quite as much exposure to other stuff. And these days, I mean, it's kind of like anything goes. You can stream anything, you can watch anything. We consume media like it's water, you know?
There were two shows back in the day that really let fandom kind of like thump their chest and let people kind of wear a kind of like the I'm going to swim upstream type of badge, you know, like
that's also true. Yes.
Right. So that was Babylon 5 and the X-Files. The X-Files kind of gave the majority of fans out there, and I will say kind of like the mundanes, for lack of a better word, but people understand that in this context, right? The mundanes, the people that didn't have access to nerd culture, right? Because it was on Fox. You know, it wasn't nerdy science fiction, although there was a lot of nerdiness to it, but it was very accessible and it was very mainstream. Now, Babylon 5 wasn't that. Babylon 5 was actually the type of series like Doctor Who, where you're kind of ashamed to admit that you like it, but when you actually admitted that, people that liked it understood why. Right, it's like Doctor Who, right? You know, you don't really admit that you're a Doctor Who fan. No one has a problem admitting they're a Star Wars fan or a Star Trek fan. But when you say Doctor Who, you almost kind of like are prepared for the volley of like, oh, what a nerdy show. Really? Star Wars, Star Trek fans?
Or what is Doctor Who?
Right. Even though at that time it was still like a 45-year-old series by that time.
Sure.
So with Babylon 5 really had the highest proving ground in swimming upstream. And that's what I love about this quote. Again, it goes, it gave us hope that there can always be new beginnings, even for people like us. Die-hard, dyed-in-the-wool fans of certain like long-time science fiction genres that wanted to try something new and gave us the freedom to do it, right? Gave us the opportunity to enjoy it.
True, true. I mean, the door did open for a whole lot more sci-fi, including on mainstream networks. Like the Orville was on Fox. There was Firefly, Farscape, Andromeda, so many other shows that kind of came out afterward that were great in their own right, with their own shortcomings, with their own greatness. You can appreciate them all or none at all. I mean, it's entirely up to you, and it's neither here nor there.
Cleopatra 2525. I'm saying.
So, I'd never considered this quote in terms of fandom. I always just felt it was relating to people, and especially the people we had watched for the last 5 years. If you think about where Garibaldi came from, he was basically rebounding from an alcoholic relapse. Sinclair said, hey, look, I've got a job for you if you want it. He took it. He got sober, was all right for a while. It was a new beginning for him. It was a new beginning for Zach. It was a new beginning for Delenn when she emerged from the chrysalis. There's just it's a beginning for John Sheridan when he takes command of the station. Everybody gets a chance to do something different, to be a part of something bigger than themselves. I mean, and that's life. Life is just this constant of change and evolution, and you just don't know what it's going to throw at you.
I mean, for Londo and Jakar, second chances for both of them, really.
Oh gosh.
Right.
Oh, so many things between those two. If you think about their arc, oh my gosh. Woo. Okay. We don't have enough time for that.
No, that's a completely different show. Right?
It really is. It really is. Okay. So I want to jump into some comments if we can before we get to our number one pick.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. We're going to go to Dana, and her comment is, when a probe from an unknown alien race requiring answers to scientific questions or the station will be destroyed, Ivanova says, I'd hate to die because of an error. It would be embarrassing. That's a good one, Dana. I like that. I didn't think about that one. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
CJ Hoover SD says, I love any interaction between Ivanova and Zathras. Yes.
Right?
Yes. So good. And I mean, honestly, we didn't get enough Zathras just in general. Not Zathras, not Zathras, not Zathras.
This is wrong tool. That was Zathras. With Ivanova. It's greatest.
And yeah, I just love it when she goes down to Epsilon 3 by herself and she's Zathras! No. That was Zathras.
Yeah. The
yes.
Zathrai.
The Zathrai. We've already discussed that.
Yeah.
Terry Lynn informs us that Jason Carter was born in London on September 23rd, 1960, raised in Gainsborough, a small market town in Lincolnshire. I'm going to have to look up where exactly that is in England. I do not know.
It sounds like, one of those kind of like small blue collar, industrial towns.
Yeah,
that's his accent.
Would not surprise me in the least if he came from a more working class background. That would be great. Yeah. Patrick has another great quote. This is one I considered. I think I have it in my honorable mentions. Yes, I do. I can only conclude that I'm paying off karma at a vastly accelerated rate. That comes from Points of Departure. And yeah, it's fantastic.
That's a famous one. It's a good
one.
Yeah.
Terry Lynn has one that says, there's nothing more annoying than Mr. Garibaldi when he's right. It's so true.
Right.
Yes.
But that's that big brother or big sister relationship that she has with him. It's like, oh my God, I hate him.
Yeah. She loves to hate him though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Earl talks a little bit about the early 90s, the geek versus non-geek wars. Yeah, dude, I was there too. I get it. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. And we're having a lot of Zathras comments, so I'll just let people read those. Zathras is great. That's what I want to sum up with.
Yeah, Zathras is amazing. We could do a show all on Zathras' quotes, which would be like the entire
that would be
show
good.
would just be like all of his dialogue, basically. Right?
We're just going to recite all of it. That's what that show will be.
There are so many interesting like guest stars, but like when they hired Tim Choate to play Zathras, It's literally like, I don't know like what part of like JMS's psyche Zathras represents, but it has to be just whatever impish
It's the
nature.
same area where Spoo came from.
Must be. Like,
I'm not exactly sure which part of the brain that is, but it's there.
at 10 credits an ounce, if you could believe that.
Ugh,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
That's where heart salami comes from, too. Let's see. So, Dana says, so I guess we need to do the next show on Zathras. Not a bad idea. Not a bad
well,
idea.
I mean, do you guys really want to hear us recite every Zathras quote in the book? Because
Earl
that's what it would
says-
turn into.
Top 5 characters who really needed more exposure. I kind of like that, too.
Oh, that's a really good one.
You know, I mean, we can
Earl.
go like obviously Zathras needed more exposure. Let's say I think that Julie Monsante needed more exposure,
No.
or maybe less exposure.
Ew. I mean, we got way enough exposure of her.
You know who needed more exposure? Lindisty. Lindisty needed more exposure,
Lindisty. Oh, would that not be scary to have her come back and haunt Veer some more?
right? Or what if we saw her at the end when Veer was emperor?
Ew.
Or say, for example, I think like say I wanted to see I can't remember her name right now, but it was the lady who ran the union on Babylon 5. I wanted to see.
Oh, yeah.
Her
Oh,
more.
gosh. What was her name? I forget now. I want to say it was Becky, but that could be the actress's name.
I
for all
really like
remember.
that character.
Yeah,
just
and she
that
was a
episode
one
in
up. I
general.
love this topic. Can we do this next week?
Sure, we can do this next week.
That's a great one. Thank you, Earl. That's great.
Phrasing.
Now-
What did I say? Oh, more exposure.
Well, we're talking about exposure and Musante and just no. We got too
Gotcha.
much already. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's time for our number one, dude.
It is time for our number one.
Hit
So
it.
This mine is it's unconventional, but I just love this scene so much, and I love the Russianness of this scene.
Okay.
So this comes from the episode where Ivanova says to Lita, "Have you ever heard of the Hour of the Wolf?"
Oh, I considered this. Yeah. Do it.
Ivanova says, "My father told me about it. It's a time between 3 and 4 in the morning. You can't sleep, and all you can see is the troubles and the problems and the ways that your life should have gone but didn't. All you can hear is the sound of your own heart. I've been living in the Hour of the Wolf for 7 days, Lita. 7 days. The wolf and I are now on a first-name basis. In times like this, my father used to take 1 large glass of vodka before bed. And to keep the wolf away, he said. And then he would take 3 very small drinks of vodka just in case she had cubs while she was waiting outside. It doesn't work."
Love it.
Love that quote. I mean, to take away, not to take away from the big quotes, but for me, if you wanted to like illustrate Ivanova with like one quote, for me, that's the one, because it shows like so much about like like she said, like, you ever like pondered like where your life should have gone. She's up at all hours in the morning. She's worrying about Sheridan. She's worrying about the station. And the only thing to keep like all of this anxiety at bay is like 1 large glass of vodka. But I just love the detail that Joe throws in there, and like 3 small sips just in case she has cubs. That's such a Joe detail, right?
It is, and it's so freaking just. Yeah, dude, it's so good. Like, just where did that come from? I want to know how you achieve that brilliance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, and I love about that. It's that time where he would be part of that Midnight Nation, that 2 or 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, where people are starting to change from kind of like this midnight shift, midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning, and then from like say 5 or 6 in the morning to like the actual morning shift of like the normal working class. And
Sure.
and in that time where I think a lot of us at one point in time, we would sit up somewhere along the line in our lives, and just kind of stare at the wall or stare at the clock and say, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing?
Honestly, though, at 3 o'clock in the morning, no matter what you're doing, that is the time for existential dread.
That's what this is.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Because 3 in the morning, you really should either be, you should be asleep, unless you're a night worker, in which case then you should be wrapping things up. But I feel like no matter what, if you are awake at that hour, it's just like, yeah, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
In a past life, I used to be much more of a night dweller. These days, schedules necessitate more or less operating during the day. But if I had my way, I'd probably be a little more like Joe Straczynski, who is still a night dweller. I mean, honestly, I feel like I would wake up in the evening hours, really get going at about 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
and probably write till 3, maybe 4 or 5 in the morning and then sleep if I had my way.
That's very Spanish of you. When I was in Spain, we
Yeah?
didn't start eating dinner until 10. We didn't start drinking at the disco until 1.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that's like normal.
That's just their way of life?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's their way of life. Like meals start, like dinner started at 10. We had a huge meal. Everyone sat around, drank for. This is when I went to Spain to go fence, to go sword fight, which was amazing. But we just like, oh, we're eating at 10. Like I'm like, what are we gonna
Dude,
do?
like I'm hungry at 7,
Right, exactly. And then by the time we're done with dinner, there's like, oh wait, we gotta hang out for an hour, and then the disco, in our hotel is gonna open up. I'm like, disco, and they're like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
you
the
gotta
bar.
go to
That's
the
what a bar
disco.
is. I'm like, but that's gonna be like 1, and like everyone's like, yeah,
Yo. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just sometimes for a lot of people, that's prime time in the night hours. And I really get it. I mean, man, if I still had my way, I would do that. Just like JMS, BC, I agree. Midnight to 3 a.m. That is JMS prime tweeting hours.
I'm telling you, man.
You notice that? He does that. Starting
You-
at about 10 p.m. maybe, and then going through the night. I usually have so much to catch up on in the morning when he's active. Unfortunately, he's not right now. We ought to acknowledge the passing of Harlan Ellison's wife, Susan,
Yeah.
recently. That's been a huge impact on the B5 community just because of Harlan Ellison's involvement in the show, and RIP.
If you want to like cry for days on end straight, read
No, I don't.
read Becoming Superman and read Joe's last moments with Harlan Ellison.
Oh, yeah.
It's so beautiful and so heartbreaking, and you're just like, okay, that's where he came up with that kind of that logic of the more important the words are, the least amount of words you need to say them. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's not for this show.
Yeah. That's a whole other show. But seriously, yeah, just the closeness of that whole community. They're hurting right now. I hope they're okay. Hope you're doing well. We're sending good thoughts your way. You'll get through it.
May both Harlan and Susan just enjoy a very different experience beyond the rim.
That's right.
Right.
Because they're there. They definitely are.
Where and like Delenn said, to John, it's like the next time we meet, we will be together where in the world or in the realm where no shadows fall.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if there's an afterlife personally. Like, I'm a little agnostic. But if there is, I'm going there too. No shadows fall.
all right, we still have to get to your number 1.
Let's do this. We're running out of time. So mine is a personal favorite. This is the line that made me really fall in love with Ivanova. With a close second being, I'm in the middle of 15 things, all of them annoying. Like, that told me a lot about who she was and what I could expect out of her. But when she said this line, I knew, like, if I knew her in real life, I'd want to be her BFF for sure. And this is the person I aspire to be. So the line is, no boom today, boom tomorrow. There's always a boom tomorrow. What? Somebody's got to have some damn perspective around here. Sooner or later. Boom! And that's from the episode Grail. And that's when I knew I loved Susan Ivanova. So Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Claudia, for this beautiful character.
Again, part of that kind of that Russian pessimism, right? If it's not going to happen today, it's going to happen sooner or later. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just the way that Claudia delivered that line, it was just, she's right.
Yeah.
And the way that Garibaldi and Sinclair walk off, they're just like, oh, God. But no, wait, listen to her. She's right.
She was right. She was right.
Yes.
And she was more right than she probably even knew
She
herself.
had no idea.
Yeah.
Followed up by that small little follow-up where You really want to know what's going on? Boom.
Boom.
Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom.
Boom.
Boom. Have a nice day.
Did she say that to Londo or Jakar?
Londo?
Londo, I think it was. Yeah.
I think it was Londo.
But yeah, because Londo's nosy like that. And Earl's right.
Earl.
Earl
has the great summation of Ivanova. She understands the law of averages.
Yeah.
It's true. She understands that things go up, things go down. In the end, there will be a boom tomorrow. It's inevitable to happen.
He goes, she's Russian. We understand these things. That's so true, right? Again, let's go into the Russian history, and then Joe is no stranger to Russian history. It's part of his life. It's part of his background. So he understands that there in the Russian plight there was always either some type of revolution or some type of tyrannical law or some type of revolution because of tyrannical law and vice versa. There was the Russian people were never ever really truly. What's the word? Now, I wouldn't say liberated because the revolution tried to liberate them, but the Russians never really had it easy compared to say like Western democracy. So
certainly that's why they resented it.
Right, and that's exactly where even with when Susan was when she was telling that story, when she was setting Shiva for her father Alexei, and then she asked her favorite author a question, and then her father defended her honor. It was still about history. It's still about Russian history. And Alexei kind of drove that into both Susan's and it was her brother's name was Yana, right?
Ganya.
Into their lives as well, because if you're Russian, you're going to learn about your own history. Whether it's whether it's now or 200 years from now, it's like Russian history, especially the history of the early 1900s, is what defines why Russians are pessimistic. Right?
It's true. It's ingrained, man. And if it's not ingrained in you completely, we're going to beat it into you with history lessons. Terry Lynn has a great comment. Claudia Christian celebrated her birthday very recently, as of last Friday. So happy birthday to her. She is doing a fundraiser for her C3 Foundation. Mm-hmm. And guys, she is posing for a photo in a bikini if you want that.
So I always thought it was so serendipitous that the name of her, the method of
the Sinclair method
program is called the Sinclair
method.
Method.
Did you make that up? But no. But it's serendipitous. Yes.
Right. I could not believe it when I first read that. I'm like,
I know, same.
Really?
I just thought you're so derivative. What the hell? Couldn't you have thought of something else? But it's all about the guy who came up with the idea.
Right. And the only thing that would have been better would have been the Sheridan method. I would have been like, fuck, what?
No, you know what would have been great is if his first name had been Jeffrey. And then we would have been like, really?
I would have lost my mind.
Just like, no. That would have been complete BS. We would have known, okay, real, you're just making this up. No. It's a real guy. It's a real method, and it helps a lot of people.
Right.
And she is just doing a lot of amazing work, helping people get away from alcohol misuse and helping treat them. And so she's been doing these photos in a bikini. I don't know if it was 5 years ago, because she's 55 now and looks freaking 35. Oh my God, whatever you're doing, keep it up. I can't tell any difference really between her previous photo, the last time she did this to do a fundraiser, and this current one. She looks amazing. Girl keeps fit. She knows what she's doing. She's all right.
The Sheridan method, blowing it straight to hell. Yeah.
You nuke it. That's what you do with the Sheridan method.
Right. You nuke it. John Newcomb Sheridan. The only method that works, right?
It's true. Well, we ought to close up this show. We are over an hour.
Yeah, so I like the idea of doing kind of say, the top 5 or so characters that we would have liked to have seen a little bit more of.
Yes, the ones that could have used more exposure and not in the Masante sense.
Honorable mention. Maybe not.
I mean, you do you, boo, but no, she's not making my list. Gross.
I'll have to fight Char on that one. Anywho, so that was a great show. I love getting into kind of the understanding of a character based on what we believe kind of are not only they're their most famous quotes, but quotes that kind of encapsulated in very economical sense of like who this character was, because obviously there's far more depth to Susan Ivanova than just the hour that we talked about her, like what are her famous quotes. But you got a sense of kind of like who she is, what she's made of, and then what you can expect from her and what people can expect from her and what she expects from herself. And I think that's for her character, she's so complex, but at the same time, though, I also think that she's also very, very, very focused in certain ways.
I agree. Yeah. There's certain things that are just, you can't compromise with her, like loyalty, like honesty, like duty. And then the rest of it is very complicated.
Yeah. The thing is with Garibaldi, though, like when she says shoot him on sight, I think she was heartbroken. She's like, no, not you.
Yeah.
Like she could not take it. Like she could not accept the fact that Garibaldi betrayed John Sheridan. It's like, we were three. We were the three, right?
Right. I mean, of all people, why him? I'm sure we had a lot of missing scenes about her processing that.
I'd love to be able to.
Because she didn't have time. It's, it's war.
Right. And no fifth season for her. But I'd love to like take an opportunity to kind of to creatively write what those scenes would be like between those two.
Ooh, I would love to see a reconciliation between Ivanova and Garibaldi,
or how she earns that trust, or how he earns that trust from her again.
Or did he?
Or did right? So that
could be fun too.
Yeah.
But next week we'll do the underexposed characters. That'll be a great top 5 list.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun.
That'll be super fun.
And in the meantime, if you want to keep things going on the show, let's put our honorable mentions in the Discord server. We'll do that.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll do that. Then I've got to do dinner, so I'm not going to stick around, but the chat will keep on going there. There is a link at the top of the chat. So please join us. And if you're watching us more than a couple of days after this airs, the link does expire. So if you missed that and it's no longer valid, hit me up on Twitter. My handle is @OhTheProfanity, or Norm, your lounge lizard. We can hook you up with an invite link because it is invite only.
Yeah, and we're growing that community too. It's been a great idea so far. Everyone's having a really good time just talking about either all things Babylon 5 or all things everything else, which is fun.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we can talk about a lot of things. We've got all sorts of topics. And if there's a topic on there, well, that doesn't exist on there yet that you want, we can create it. We can be the one-stop shop for everything because we are the Zocalo.
That's right. That's what we do. So if you like what you saw on this video or videos that you have seen in the past, make sure that you hit your like or share or subscribe button, like either over here or over here, or just make sure that you tell your friends about us, because word of mouth is always just as good as any kind of social media like or link or anything like that.
Totally. It's still the best way. It always has been.
I think so. And it's a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more vetted also,
Yeah, exactly. So thanks, you guys. This was a fun show, and we'll talk to you again next Sunday.
All right. Be seeing you.
Bye.